Thanks for having me. If you'll excuse me, we've heard a number of different presentations already today with some fairly tactical information and some fairly immediately visceral information. I'm going to back up a little bit and philosophize a little bit with you. So if you'll indulge that, I think what you'll find are some excellent frameworks that we can use coming out of here and start to collaborate in more interesting and meaningful ways. Before we start, I wanted to try one piece of audio. It's a quick snippet from Lewis Black basically saying, this is a moment. This moment is simply as good as it's going to get. All of the anticipation you had walking up to this moment is as good as it's going to get. The moment that we're in is the moment we have. And it's interesting to me to hear, in many cases, comedians philosophize and hit real truth better than we do quite often. So I heard that in the car one day and basically came to this kind of quote in my head, which is, what came before us we can't change. What's coming next we can't predict. All we can do is act in the moment. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about moments. We're in one right now. What we get out of it is up to us. This moment is probably a little bit different for me than it is for you. You might be wondering why you're here, why you had what you had for lunch, and so on. I might be a little nervous. I might be wondering why I took this gig, and so on. But all of these things really are distractions from our moment, and the more that we can get into this moment, the more effective it will be. If we succeed, we'll all be the better for it at the end. I'll hold your attention. You'll be open to what I have to say. I'll appear level-headed, perhaps even intelligent. You'll integrate what you like into your personal experience, and you'll leave out what doesn't work for you. If something works particularly well for you, you'll take it with you and use it in a subsequent moment. We have about 15 minutes together, which is not very long, and I'm thrilled to exchange some of what I think I know. Very briefly, quickly, an introduction, kind of by-the-book introduction of myself. I wanted to give you a little bit of personal information. I've been in communication since my first memories, perhaps like many of you. I've written short stories. I've kept a journal. I've communicated on behalf of others, really, frankly, in order to make money. I've been, and probably still am, a bit of a geek. I was one of the people who actually read the Silmarillion. I had the first Timex Sinclair, for those of you who know what that even is, on my block. I coded on an Apple II, and I owned no less than 9 Commodore 64s. Apparently, I'm speaking to the right group. I also had 2 Amiga 128s, for what it's worth. I discovered that in working with computers, I was a spatial thinker. I organized my thoughts in patterns and shapes. I think this is very interesting, given what David was talking about this morning. It's a big trend, and those of us who think this way are kind of inheriting the earth at this point, if you will. So if you do, that's excellent. I don't track to details. I track to what I think are basically blobs of information, and I see shapes and so forth as I work through that. That, by the by, is not good for coding, so I got out of it. Early in my career as a technical writer, which I did in order to stay close to the coders, I invented what I thought was object-oriented documentation. I was using things like information architecture, wayfinding, wireframing, and so forth to make sense out of the sea of information that was in front of me. Companies like Sapient and March 1st at the time, made millions by understanding the business implications of what was going on in the market, while I quietly followed along, working hard, at least for one of them. They marked themselves with tags like architects of the new economy and fueling the human desire to be first. I was neither, and neither were they, and when the economy finally crashed in that period. But my history is relevant simply in that it's a study in opportunities missed, at least at that time. I didn't take advantage of what was opened up to me, and if I had, you probably would have known my name before I took the stage. Regardless, I think many of you share some aspects of my personal makeup. You might be a silent listener, you might be polite, you might take a little bit of time to figure things out before you act, and you may freeze at certain times amidst overwhelming change. I can tell you that it is the truth that I was nervous before I got up here, but it is simply not the time to hold still. At this moment, opportunities are opening up all around us. In many ways, we can't see them. We won't see them until we have the perspective of hindsight. But at that point, it will be too late. Right now, we're at an inflection point. It's the time when everything changes. Financial models, methods of governing, expectations for authenticity and transparency are fluid. Decisions are at hand. In these moments, the smart can trump the bold, and you have more control than you realize, probably, in some cases, more than you want. In these moments where this turns into that, there's only one way to make your way through, in my opinion, and that is to fall back within yourself and find your own core truth. For my own part, it's a basic phrase, be here now. And this introduction about moments is really where that comes in. So be here now, for me, is basically the quote that I cited early on. What came before us, we can't change. What's coming next, we can't predict. We can only act in the moment. We can act with purpose. We can act with authenticity. We can act with energy. Whatever that moment requires, however we react to it, is the context and the movement that's needed from us. But we have to move. Where are we going? A creative company following this imperative of be here now must essentially create a safe environment of inspiration and constant innovation. An employee within that creative company must do everything she can with the tools she has at hand in order to achieve great things for that company and for the clients it serves. For a business selling products and services, you must not just try to be in your customer's shoes. It's not good enough anymore. You must be with genuine interest and authenticity in your customer's moment. And that's really hard. My job, in my opinion, is to help my clients get there, and my job is to create an environment where my employees are better able to do that. The industry we work in is loosely labeled. It can be called advertising, marketing and communications, interactive marketing, media, television, broadcasting, you name it. I have what is called, again, loosely an agency of about, as John said, 60 people here in Chicago. And I work with a lot of people like you, or I partner with a lot of people like you in your own businesses or as individuals. This market and our clients are driving us to become something new, to be more meaningful, more relevant, more timely, more honest, more in an audience's now than ever before. I'd like to do it openly and purposefully here in Chicago. I think that the Chicago Convergence, for instance, is an excellent place to have that unfold. A metaphor like open source can serve as an excellent example for the creation of businesses that share more openly, but not just the code or assets they create, but the way they create, in order for those businesses to plug into each other or disconnect from one another in interesting ways. I believe Chicago can become known for having been the birthplace of this sort of model. As a starting point, just very briefly, I'd like to suggest a perspective which could serve as a baseline. Whether you're a business owner, an employee, or a consumer of our services, you'll address a customer need in some way at some time. We will always calibrate 4 unique lenses when we do that. Who the customer is, what they can do, what they're made of, and how they can prove it. In other words, business strategy, method of delivery, content creativity, and honest accountability. On the face of it, those 4 things are not revolutionary, but they are revolutionary when they're treated exactly equally. When you stitch them together further with personal insight and creative inspiration, you'll be closer to defining and delivering a moment in time for your customer, a moment that is constantly evolving but always in focus. You have an advantage, you here in this room. If you're a member of the motion graphics industry in one form or another, the imperative we're discussing is more understandable and achievable for you than it is for just about any other industry. You're equipped better to attain its bar because it has to do with the purposeful creation of moments. Good design, good motion graphic design, directs attention, suspends disbelief, takes an audience on a journey. You are expert storytellers, perhaps, certainly more so than I am. You understand honest reflection, jarring context, depth of scene, the interplay of light. You steer the multitude of dimensions in which storytelling occurs. You understand the tools of your trade so well that they become literally extensions of yourself. In many cases, the Adobe products are like your arms and legs in many cases. Woven together, the elements you manipulate succeed or fail as a rich, enveloping tapestry. The degree to which creative moments succeed is the degree to which you hold your audience in a powerful, meaningful now. We, people like me, need you to help us get there. Only a tiny fraction of the industry you're in is run by those who fuel its engine. The content creators, the storytellers, the production editors, writers, and graphic designers. In many cases, the voice of reason is lost in the noise of a media and advertising machine. If we take one quick example, we might consider this. An industry that has formed itself around media plans, channels, and the like. What if a media plan, or perhaps more honestly, a media buy, what if it were called an engagement plan? I know certain agencies do this. I would just hold them to the fire to see how honestly they truly are doing it. What if an engagement plan existed so that the perspective of engagement demanded getting in your audiences now as opposed to getting in their face? Would the business function differently? Would commercials exist as we know them today? Would video be incorporated into a media mix more proactively? And furthermore, who would control that business? I respectfully suggest that content would own the day. And those who create it direct the business. New marketing thought is baking the big idea together with the media that will deliver it, transforming both of them into something entirely new. So just very quickly, citing Crispin Porter as the agency of the year, Ad Age describes them as going light years further than other ad agencies in design, making Crispin much more valuable than your average maker of ad widgets simply because it's able to affect product before the marketing is done and even create brand new revenue streams. That to me sounds like a business partner. Perhaps now is the time for us to act as business partners. Can we redefine the word agency to mean that? And furthermore, can we build it on a framework that we create here in Chicago? You have coming up a number of very, very interesting presentations that will add color and depth to some of the framework that I've outlined. You'll see up-to-the-moment trends in business, innovations in monetizing video content, cause-driven communication and how video and motion graphics play in to make that more effective, industry insights from across the world, and you'll get to the essence of yourself and ultimately the essence of your brand. These are bigger ideas, much bigger than what I've presented here, but ultimately color in some of the framework that I've provided. I'd like to ask you to watch out for me on some of the blogs and communications that happen on the Convergence website, and perhaps get involved as I start the conversation for what this might mean for businesses plugging into one another and sharing information that previously they perhaps never would. So that we can redefine the standard for redefine the standard for the creation of moments and how it's achieved here and around the world. Thank you.